Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice start of the weekend so far and is enjoying the marathon. Today I will be starting with Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure. For anyone who's seen the previous Bonk games on the TG16, you'll probably recognize some of the various NPCs who were enemies. Other than that, I will be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So basically in this game, King Drool has stolen a piece of the moon. Whatever his obsession is, well, to take half of the moon and store it under the sea, we'll probably never know. But it's up to Bonk to get it back. Because the flowers that you see are in a couple of different colors. Depending on what color they are different. Some of the yellow flowers mainly will give you power-ups, or they'll enable you to jump higher. And some of the other ones contain enemies. Now for safety, just because lives-wise, if you lose all your lives, you will have to restart the particular set of levels over. But upon a death, Bonk just goes to sleep and you just press a button to awake. Now since the levels are quite vast, so you might have 1 or 2 different paths, if not more, that you can take. The main gimmick of this game is candies, which either can make either you'll see mini Bonk or you'll see a very large Bonk. But they also enable Bonk to take 1 extra hit without losing health. Now these red Bonk look like enemies. If you're too close to the ground, as you see, you'll get temporarily frozen. But other than that, they don't pose that much of a threat. These scooter enemies just jump over Bonk. Of course, they're not looking where they're going. For 1-3, you're normally supposed to go into the water to find access to get onto the boat, but we can take this first mini candy, go through a small secret entrance. Since it's a short level, the boss is right through this entrance. Now with the majority of these bosses, it's actually King Drool that's operating them, instead of them being actual enemies. If you were to get stomped on by this particular enemy that King Drool was controlling, it doesn't actually damage Bonk, but you'll get turned into Crab Bonk, which you might see later on. And you can hit it from underneath or from above, which is a stronger attack. So in 2-1, you travel through the correct pipe to take you to the next area. Now when you come out of this particular pipe, you want to spin right away so you don't run into the smooch fish. If you actually get eaten by the smooch fish, you'll enter into what's basically the smooch fish's body, and you'll have to navigate through a path to get out. There's at least a few different patterns for the smooch fish that you'll see, and any of the liquid that you're in while you're inside the smooch fish will actually will actually drain health, but you'll also see a couple, maybe a heart or two as well, so that you can get out safely. This is probably the one big fish that actually doesn't pose a threat in the game at all. It's fortunate that some of the extra fruit that you see, as well as some of the miniature butterflies, can actually give you health here and there. Unfortunately for Bonk, there's a lot of enemies who still consider him lunch. So if a dino does happen to attempt to have Bonk for a feast, just mash out as soon as possible, because the longer you stay trapped, the more health goes away. So for this area, I'll utilize mini Bonk so that I can utilize this this particular item for kind of flying swimming, just so that I don't have to go all the way around. Bonk could just utilize this to go diagonally, fly diagonally, and walk straight to the exit. There's not much in 2-3 that's a major worry. Probably the worst thing in this level would just be the false exits. Bonk has to have incredibly strong dentures teeth to be able to utilize these platforms and to climb walls. I wanted to use the auto slider just to show the animation. It's hilarious. There's one false exit to the left. If you were to go all the way there hoping to exit the level, it just goes away. Just like that second one. This particular exit on the far right leads to the second boss. Another machine controlled by King Drool. Without proper timing, this boss is a bit of a pain just to land the hits. But once you fall through, you'll know that it was the last hit. And King Drool III always proclaims he'll be back. If you have enough smileys at the end of a particular round, you can choose one of the bonus games, which some will give you, depending on how well you do, you can obtain extra lives, but some of them are quite different from others. And you also have to have 16 smileys, if not more, just to access one of them at the end of a round. I wanted to avoid going into the water here because just so I don't actually get eaten by the smooch fish. Unfortunately, there's no real threats in 3-1. Three two starts you off in the desert. Night turns to day and vice versa very quickly. Fortunately, the friendly sun here is not as dangerous as the sun you see as the angry sun in Mario 3. Fortunately, you don't have to worry about defeating that particular enemy just to go blow in the caverns. And it's the only one of those you'll see for the whole game. But to navigate through these tunnels, you have to be mini Bonk. But fortunately, there's plenty of candies just in case you do get hit. Anytime you see that green dino hovering about, its sole objective is to take any smileys you have away, and it will usually knock 4 of them out at one time. So if you really wanted to go to the bonus stage, you'll want to not hopefully get hit by it at all. 3-3, you're going to get hit by one of the boulders. But you do need to stand on one of them to navigate your way across this large bed of spikes. I mean, you can opt to walk across them yourself if you're not powered up by the large slab of meat that you see. But since you don't obtain any meat right here, you'll just continue to take hits the longer you're on any bed of spikes. This particular slab of meat is useless because most likely you'll run into that enemy block that will turn you into a crab. Two smaller slabs of meat will turn you invincible for a short period of time. Or one slab of large meat will have the same effect. The temple in 3-2 is very large. There are some various secrets about, and I still have not found a path that leads to all of these extra lives just waiting to be obtained. King Drool is in a pumpkin-like machine. Every time you hit the head, the pumpkin gets much bigger. Other than that, you hit it from above, which is Bonk's stronger attack for a few hits, and King Drool goes away again, threatening to be back. 4-1 is probably where you'll start having a much tougher time. There's a lot of lava. If you don't avoid it. But fortunately, there's 2 large slabs of meat. While you're invincible, you can walk on the lava at your leisure. If you decided to stay along the bottom, you can opt to take the platforms to the top as well, but there's nothing helpful enough to get you through the level faster. There are some other items in the game that will take you to some kind of a small bonus area within the levels, usually a flower that you may not want to grab. As the bonus areas just take up time. For 4-2, you just reach the top of the mountain. Don't trust the snowmen that you see here. Just more enemies waiting to ambush Bonk. Unfortunately, you do have some ice physics as well. Other than that, there's not too much to 4-2. 4-3 continues with ice and water that you do have to, a mixture of water and ice to finish the level. Now you'll definitely want to stay out of the water here. Use the yellow flowers to stay above. I was hoping to obtain that particular just to help me get to the health without taking a hit. As stated earlier, some of these levels are quite vast, so there's items and enemies everywhere. At least depending if you're big or small. Those piranhas, even though everything looks like it's in the background, those piranhas, if they actually attach to Bonk, they will eventually take health. So just press the button to kind of shake them off as soon as possible. But these smaller fish are just points. A couple of flowers that are just evil, and you walk into that just leads to the boss corridor. King Drool was hoping to trick Bonk but just turns out to be another machine. But since you do have to deal with ice, trying to hit the boss while trying to walk on ice is slightly troublesome. But it's not too bad as long as you have enough lives. (5-1), you're in a portion of the city. You can opt to take the low road or the high road. If you take the high road, you'll have a large slab of meat for some invincibility. And don't forget, Bonk 3 is now on sale. It's a good thing that with the invincibility, it allows Bonk not only to absorb hits, walk on lava, but Bonk can also walk slightly faster. Even after the invincibility goes away, Bonk will still be able to take the extra hit. Or eventually, that sprite will go away. For 5-2, you definitely want to stay on the high road as much as humanly possible. But the platforms that you see, anything that's gray will collapse. Five 3 is a bit more dangerous. Now you can opt to actually slowly climb the poles and walk and try to swing your way across, but it's faster to just take a few hits from the spikes. While swimming up the waterfall, there's a couple of enemies that may or may not hit you depending on your positioning. Climb up this particular tree. There's some health and a small slab of meat along the way. And we're at another boss. For this boss, you actually can, with enough hits, you can actually one cycle, depending on the hits. But most of the time, it will most likely be a 2 cycle. You'll have to deal with squids, scorpions after each time the head submerges in the submarine. But with enough hits, King Drool gives up, says he'll be back, and we go on to round 6. It's easier to hit that boss underneath than above. Now these weird plant-like items on the ground have small dinos that, while you're in position, will actually run at you. You may not almost ever see them because they run so fast. This particular round is one of the reasons why I wanted to get the extra life from earlier. I was hoping for that large slab of meat, but the jump arc wasn't high enough. Fortunately, you're given a heart underneath, just below where the exit is. And as you can see, for some reason toward the end, you see what was a former boss in one of the other Bonk games. Unfortunately, you can still get hit by that dino, but it's not necessarily to get rid of it. It's nothing too much in 6-2. Just a cavern with a lot of ice and But unfortunately, I did not want to be Big Bonk here because it makes navigating this part much harder than it should. On the slopes, you actually have to keep holding forward while pressing the button so that you don't just slide back down. Now for 6-3, have to make your way up to the top side. And I definitely did not want to become big there. This area with the clouds that affects your jump. So fortunately, there's an extra heart that you can obtain, but the heart actually doesn't get refilled even if you lose a life. But the main usage is to have this particular swim flying power up, so as long as you don't actually get hit by anything, instead of trying to navigate the clouds and while avoiding enemies in some of the platforms, you can just fly at your leisure. Well, swim fly anyway, to the very end. The movement is much slower, but you'll definitely save some. You can save a lot of health. Now, for some reason, King Drool took a break, so he ordered his minions, very weak minions, to assume the boss role, which normally, even as enemies, they're extremely easy, and as a boss, the same way. Now, after all those rounds, you discover where King Drool is hidden to half of the moon. And so, what's a game without some sort of a boss rush? And since round 7 is very long, you start off with a boss rush containing the first 4 bosses. But fortunately, each time after you defeat a boss, you'll at least have the chance to refill some health. It won't be too bad even if I do manage to lose a life or two, because after the boss rush, there's at least 2 different places for quite a number of extra lives, which I probably will collect a few only because of a hitbox of the final boss. Other than that, for the boss rush, the same strategies apply. Most of them don't take that many hits, especially if you're being able to hit it from above. It's very fortunate that the turtle from round 5 isn't in the boss rush. if you're directly stomped, then you'll be crab bonk. It's too bad it takes one hit just to get rid of crab bonk entirely, as it's not all that useful, but now unfortunately I definitely have to take the hit just to be able to attack this boss. Okay, that boss rush wasn't too bad. So once you're done with the boss rush, then you go through the rest of round 7. Okay, that particular candy I don't want. Since for this area I do want to stay topside. Since 2 large candies exist. It's a shame I lost the life just before getting the large slab of meat. Now normally nobody may not have known that there's an extra blue heart and lives, because you would never see it taken by taking the elevator. And there's still 2 more places to obtain extra lives and another heart. Another blue heart, I should say. Now, alternatively, you can decide to use that. Swim flying flower to avoid most of the enemies here. But there's another one coming up. Now, as my best guess, I can only imagine this is not only King Drool's lair. This could also be King Drool's place of residence. Maybe. Now, since we didn't see the character last time, Baby Drool, probably the most hilarious fight in the game. Going down to a particular level gives you access to this. So there's 2 more extra lives here. Now going down this particular tube pipe into the sewer, you want to be in the habit of spinning right away, or else you'll definitely end up in the smooch fish. and there's a few of them in the water, so you'll want to definitely stay topside. And here's another path with an extra heart and lives, much larger than the other path. I don't need the 6 heart because there's a 6 heart along the way. Now for this final normal section, yes, finally, you can see just how long round 7 is. Hidden behind this pole is access to a large candy. You can decide which way you would like to go. Now if you can opt to go all the way around, or you can take this item to swim fly and take the top path, which if you do, you have access to more health and extra lives. You'll see smileys all over the place, but at this point they'll be very useless. Now you can't fit into that path with huge Bonk. And now we finally have King Drool, who for some reason has now utilized the same power but with its wand. So you hit each form enough times and King Drool turns into, has four different forms that you need to get a proper hit on. And you'll have to go through this twice. Once King Drool walks off screen as Tiny Drool, then you have Super Mega Drool, which is so large you won't even see the entire, all you'll see is the top part of its head. The main reason for collecting all of these, some of the extra lives, is just because of normal Drool size hitbox, which has given me trouble in the past. But fortunately this time it hasn't been bad at all. So I think the key to normal Drool's hitbox is to hit it right away as soon as it turns. And time will be coming up shortly. And time. So that's Bonk's 3, Bonk's Big Adventure. The base explodes. The moon is freed from its shackles and rejoins the other half in space. Other than that, that is Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure. Maverick Hunter X will be up next, so stay tuned.